Good evening, everybody. Welcome to MUFC Realist TV. And this is your host, Jarvis Cocker, tonight on Jarvis's Corner, Monday, 9 p.m. As always, I see we have a lot of people in the house already. I see who's here. We have Jamie Wayne, Riot, Danny B. It's Timmy. Timmy, how you doing, my friend? Lucky Singh is always here. And a lot of the legends, Brendan Chappell, Yale Malmin, everybody is ready for a new Jarvis's Corner. I have a very good guests tonight. We have Boombaye and Tom Journalist One, and of course my co-host Stu Woolley. We will talk a little bit about the game yesterday, analyze what went wrong. We will talk about Ten Hag, our expectations for the end of the season, and we will speak a little bit about the injuries. And Stu has something extra with the Tipton Town, so just stay tuned, and we will be back right after this intro.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to...
Hello. Hey, Stu, how you doing, my friend? Oh, you're on mute.
That's my mistake. I was trying to be professional, and I thought I'll mute myself. I'll try and look professional, and it didn't quite work, did it?
Yeah. You look smashing.
I'm
black,
all right.
black sweater.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. Well, I've had a bit of a kickabout tonight, so I've not long got back in, so I'm a bit sweaty and a bit kind of like so. But yes, had a bit of a kickabout, so all is good. Dismal day yesterday. A dismal day for the mighty Tipton Town.
Wow.
We got turned over 3-0, and the thing is, though, Jarvis, I was dismal. I mean, I was absolutely dismal. I don't know what was wrong with me. I got 2 left feet for some reason. I just couldn't quite get. I didn't feel right during the game, and I just felt dismal. The gaffer gave me a right fucking rollicking. At the end, he said, "Oh, fucking hell, you didn't get back. You didn't cover those 5 yards." And I, fucking hell, and I was thinking, I can't really ever go back because he was right. Sometimes in life you got to hold your hands up and say, you were dismal at something you did, and unfortunately I was dismal yesterday. But we're back in action this weekend, and I will put it right.
Yeah, that's good. That's the way, take it on the chin and just move on. It's the only way, in football, there's always another game. That's the good thing.
Well, you can't play your optimum week in and week out. It's physically impossible. It's mentally impossible. And, it is what it is. But, that game's done now. So went 5-side tonight. We've got training tomorrow. I had a decent game tonight. I was quite happy with our play tonight. So I feel quite good now for the week. And then we're away at Worcester on the weekend, so we're at home. Oh, well, anyway, we've got Worcester. I better find out for a home or away, really, haven't I? But we've got Worcester this weekend, so we'll come bouncing back. All good teams come bouncing back, and sometimes you've got to brush yourself off, look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, that's true. I will ask you one more question about Tipton Town, but first I just want to bring in our guests for the evening. We have, as usual, Tom Journalist One. How are you doing, Tom?
Evening, Tom.
Yeah, evening, gents. Hope everybody's doing well as always.
Good evening.
Yeah, all the regulars in the chat and everything, and hope everyone's had a good week.
Yeah.
Apart from what we saw last night, but we'll get into that anyway. But yeah, hit the like button as always, people.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom, and welcome to the show. And our last guest for the evening is Boombaye. You might know him from Noureddin's channel, United Real Therapy, and we are so lucky to have Boombaye as a guest tonight with his special smooth voice and good opinions. How are you doing, my friend?
Pleasure to be here. Remember, Stu, form is temporary, class is permanent, and it's like a reunion. I'm already seeing a lot of the regs in the chat. Lucky seeing. We've got Jamie. Yeah, it's all evening, fellas. Evening, ladies, gents, everybody.
He is Bombay. Yeah, he's got that late night love radio voice here in the UK. Late night love with Bombay. Absolute tremendous.
I can't take no more.
No, he's gone. sorry, Jarvis. I'll be fired before you, Bombay. You don't worry about that.
Here we have the big man himself, Mick Ruby, comes in and he has a complaint, Stu. Stu promised to wear his pink top.
Oh, God, I did. He's right. I did. I forgot. I've been rushing around. Sorry, Gaffer. Crikey, I've been done by the Gaffer twice. Yesterday and tonight. Apologies, Gaffer. I will make amends next week. I'll put it on my... I'll get it out ready before I go to footy next week.
Yeah, it's true. So now we're just going to talk a little bit about the game. But first of all, I just want to ask Stu one more question about Tipton Town. You know, you are the gaffer at this team now. How do you feel your role when you struggle, when you lose games? Because everybody seems to criticize Bruno, and there's always like Maguire, the captain. Where is the captain? Come on, captain. How do you motivate your guys?
It won't surprise you to notice this, but or know this. I go on the attack. I never defend us as a unit. I go on the attack as a unit. And it wasn't just me that was dismal yesterday. I mean, the whole squad we just weren't at the races for whatever reason. And I noticed it really early. I noticed it about 3, 4, 5 minutes into the game. I noticed we weren't fluid with not even our possession or transition, the way we were set up. We were disjointed, fragmented. You know, we weren't as regimented as we normally are. And you can notice this straight away. And then you start looking at body language. So you actually start concentrating on your team rather than the opposition. And that's a big mistake. And then all of a sudden, somebody will put in a 2 or 3 yard bobble. They'll bounce over somebody's leg. It'll go to the opposition. It'll go for a throw. And then that's it. The fucking fire in your eyes comes out and you're at them. And then it's very difficult to regain your composure. And you've almost got to shut up and be quiet within yourself to try and regain what you're doing. And I just try and motivate all the time. Come on, lads, don't worry about it. It's just one of those things. And then, at half time, I'll go, then I'll go in on the attack and say, fucking hell, man. You'd have controlled that 55 times with your left and your right eye shut. You know, what's going on? Why did you miss that? Why did you let the player run off? Actually, Gaffer, Skip, why did you let the player run behind it? Yeah, I was asleep in that. And then you've got to start trying to attack rather than defend yourself. Because if you start defending yourself, then you're making excuses for your own performance. You should never make excuses. You should always take advantage. But I don't think personally I played well for about the last 5 weeks. If I'm being honest, I haven't really played at a level that I'm comfortable with. I've been carrying a bit of a knock, but that's no real excuse, to be honest, because it's my choice to still play. And I started off, at the beginning, just talking about how we, need to remain compact, how we need to, breathe. The last 3 or 4 games, we haven't breathed in matches. We've allowed teams to suffocate us, smother us, and we haven't been able to get that breath of fresh air. We've won the games, but really we've crossed the line with broken legs rather than sprinted across the line. And so, people can have a go at Bruno, and that's absolutely fine. But there are 11 players on the pitch at any given time. It's not just the skipper, and it's not just the skipper that is. It is complacency time. You're absolutely right, pal. Absolutely right. It's not just the skipper that's got to perform. Everybody has to perform. And then, look, at the final whistle, I stood up. I always get my say. I get about 10 minutes. I stood up. I said, look, lads, the buck stops with me. I'm the skipper. I was woeful. I know it was atrocious, but it doesn't excuse each and every one of you for being as atrocious. You can't just look at me all the time and see what Stu's playing at this level. You want to surpass what I'm doing. And it was a difficult game yesterday for us. The opposition kept possession very, very well. They were big and strong, which I quite like. I enjoy that game. It was just a very, very difficult game for us. And they were a good side, and sometimes you come across teams that are just better than you on the day, and I think that's where we were. So,
I just want to remind everybody, it's 60 of you watching right now on Twitter and YouTube. So please give us a like, retweet, share, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, so you will get the notification next time we go live. I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat. We have, as mentioned, Compost Murph, Riot V, Lucky Singh, Simon Davis is here. Who else is here? We have a lot of people. Fred Fox is in the house. I haven't seen that name before. He said, who puts the players, i.e. Rashford, on the pitch each week? End of story. So, yeah, he's not happy with Ten Hag, and we will come to that, Ten Hag. I'm curious.
Just a quickie, Jarvis. It's worth mentioning Simon's a Blue. He's a City fan. But he's a brilliant football. He knows his football, knows his onions.
We're all adults. We are just here to talk.
He's more than welcome. Yeah, Simon's more than welcome. Great to have you.
Good. First of all, I will go to Tom and ask on your take on the game yesterday, like a quick review of how you saw it. As I know, you were there at the game and saw it live in London.
Yeah. I went to the game. I had a friend who had tickets for both of the FA Cup semi-finals, and he couldn't go on the second day to watch the Manchester City game. He's a Chelsea fan anyway, but he was going to originally go to both games. He couldn't do. I was in London, so I thought, I got a property about 10-15 minutes away from Wembley, so I thought, yeah, fine, I'll go. Went to the game. To be fair, the first half, I thought we played well. I thought there was an element of control. I do think that's more probably towards Coventry didn't really get out of their own half. I think they was happy to sit in and hope for maybe transitions and win free kicks higher up the field and rely on set pieces. They didn't really want to open up or play through us at any point in time. It was, to be honest, it was quite comfortable for us in the first half. I thought we just sat off and then controlled the game really from in the opposition's half, which we could argue is what we should do every single game, regardless of the opposition, who we face. And we should do that week in, week out in the Premier League. But we don't see it enough from our team. And you can say it's what it is, a lack of quality or what's in front of you in terms of it. But I just think in the first half, Coventry gave Manchester United far too much respect than they deserved, especially this season. We've had teams go against us who have just been ruthless. Even in this competition, you went away to Newport. Newport didn't care about who Manchester United was. They played brilliant football against us and they probably should have won. Wigan was, an exemplary performance as well. They played decent football in the game. They had a couple of chances. Fair enough, they didn't get through the rounds. But there's been games, like I say, and it's been, in particular, that element of control in games this season, I haven't seen it. And I've not seen it often enough. And you can label that towards injuries or the manager or the players, whatever you want to say. But the 11 players that were out on that field yesterday had a clear idea of planning the first half, which was control the ball and try and break through Coventry's back 4 or 5 when they kept switching the formation around. That was the element that we was going for. We got 3-0 up. Fair enough, we got into half-time. You get your goals and you're 3-0 up, you're cruising. I think it was 70 minutes, I think it was, roughly after the time that I knew. And then fucking calamity happened. It was an absolute calamity. Honestly, I thought Rome was falling in front of me. I honestly did. It was shocking. I mean, I know some Manchester United fans that have made trips to Copenhagen and Galatasaray and seen us been up in games and then buckle and bottle it, but that was disgraceful yesterday. What it really was. And the way that it wasn't so much the scoreline, it was just the way of how easy it was for a team who's 8th in the Championship. They're not going to get promoted if we're going to face backs. They probably won't get promoted, Coventry. So they are a stable championship team. 18 months ago, they didn't have an owner. They were in administration. They didn't even have a stadium to play in. And this football club, in the space of about 20 minutes, completely turned the whole game around. But the one thing that I'll say to Coventry anyway is their fans didn't give up. Even at 3-0 down, I could hear them from the other end of the stadium. They were singing, chanting, everything. They completely had full support behind their team. But the one thing that their players had in that 20-minute period that we didn't was we put our feet up and thought, oh, it's only Coventry. We're 3-0 up. He had 4 youngsters warming up on the bench to come on into the game, make 4 substitutions. As soon as the first goal went in, he said all to the 4 kids, go and sit back down. Go and sit back down. And the brunt of it, again, the second goal, you can say it for what it is, Onana's caught out or the look of the ball or whatever. The third goal, scandalous. At that end of the game, where you can't see a game out once again, we then get into the injury time. And guys, the actual goal that was disallowed as well, in the Championship, where Coventry sit, that goal stands because VAR doesn't intervene and the linesman didn't flag it up. So in their eyes, they won that game yesterday. And to be honest with you, I see Coventry as they were the true winners of that game yesterday. 100%. They had the belief, the determination, and the willpower to come back from 3-0 down. If it was the opposite way around, I wouldn't have betted on Manchester United coming 3-0 down. I really wouldn't have. Not in any game this season, whoever the opposition is against. And like I say, when you get to that period of the game, the manager, Mark Robbins, even made the comment, if Wright would have cut his toenail off, it would have been onside. It probably would have been. The technology system, I don't know how it's detected that it was barely even a fingertip. You're not even talking millimetres. It's that tight in that situation. And to be honest with you, with the way that game had gone, I think they deserved it, Coventry. I really do. I think if I was VAR, and listen, as Manchester United fans, it's not a nice thing to say, I would have let it slide. I honestly would have let it slide. It's the occasion. They've come back from 3-0 down. They deserve it. They deserved, for what they'd done in that 20 minutes, they deserved to have gone through easily. And it was, like I say, you got to the penalties and everything. And listen, the Casemiro one, I don't know what's happened with Casemiro for large parts this season, but it was a disgrace. I don't know if it's... Some people are even saying it was self-sabotage. I can get behind that argument, to be honest with you. He didn't even put any sort of process into it. The goalkeeper wasn't going nowhere. And even if he's going to try and dink the goalkeeper, it wasn't even straight. That's the funny thing. It wasn't even straight down the middle. So I don't know what was happening there. But look, any Manchester United fan, and this is the last thing I'll say, any Manchester United fan or the players that were on that field, I can understand with Højlund, he scored the winning penalty. He's going to celebrate it in front of the fans. I can understand in front of us. I can understand that. But the shame of some of the players, Anthony in particular, I don't want to hear any excuses for it. It is shameful what some of those players did yesterday. Nobody should have celebrated that. Nobody. And the only person that I knew of anyway who'd spoken publicly who was celebrating that victory yesterday was Erik ten Hag. And he's a lucky man. He's a very lucky man. Because if he'd have lost that game, whether it be on penalties, or in added time, or in normal regulation time, then I think a lot of people would have been calling for his head. I don't think there would have been one person that could have defended him. Least of all anybody out there. But like I say, when I even walked out of the stadium and I spoke to a lovely couple of lads and one of the girlfriends, Jack, Lewis, and I think her name was Sophie, a couple of Coventry fans who'd come all the way up from Birmingham area anyway, down to watch Coventry. I even said to them straight away, I said, what the fucking hell was that guys, in the last 20 minutes? They said, that's been the story of our season. We're a football club who, realistically, 18 months ago, we shouldn't have even been here. But I said to them straight up, you should be proud of your boys, proud of your players. And the one thing that I noticed with a lot of your fans anyway was you didn't give up. Even when you were 3-0 down, you didn't give up. If that was the opposite way, guys, I know Manchester United this season, and you guys watch Premier League football as well. They said they expect to come to Manchester United today, and they didn't want their team to show us any mercy. They thought Manchester United, if you're going to play a big football club, in any given time in Europe or in the world, Manchester United is the team you want to play right now, because it's a name that you can get. It's a team that you can get a result with the name and brand attached to it. And like I said to the couple of Coventry fans that I met, be proud of your boys when you're going back up there, because you're the real winners of today. You're the guys who should have gone through to that final. And in your league and with your regulation system, guys, you're in that final, because VAR doesn't rule the goal out in your league, because it's not even existing. And at the end of the day, I just said to them, be proud of your squad and be proud of your team for what you've achieved and what you've done. But us guys, not one player, not one fan, nobody should have celebrated that yesterday. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Yeah. Well said. Just before we go to you, Bombay, we just got to congratulate Neil Driscoll. Many congratulations, old friend. He's a massive supporter of this channel, and Mick and Jarvis right from the very, very beginning. So everybody who's involved in MUFC Realist TV, Mick, Jarvis, myself, and the rest of the team, Bombay and Tom Journo, many congratulations, old friend. I'd love to know how many years you've been married, and I'm glad to see that you're happy. And it's great to see that there are still people smiling after yesterday's defeat. Well, not defeat, felt like a defeat, didn't it, after yesterday's match? So everyone associated with MUFC Realist TV and my family as well, to you, Neil, many congratulations.
Congratulations, man. Fantastic. Now that's done, I just want to give people a reminder. When we do Jarvis's Corner, we don't bring in every comments and talk about it. We do a Q&A session at the end of the show. So if you have any questions for the panel, for me, Boombaye, Tom, or Stu, just leave the questions in the comments, and I will mark them, and we will bring them up at the end of the show and talk about it. So keep your question coming. Boombaye, are you there, man?
I'm there, man.
Cool. How did you see the game yesterday? Were you surprised how bad we were, or was it as expected?
Congratulations, Mr. Driscoll, first. What I'd say is yesterday, everything's going to plan. It's 3-0. And then I'm thinking, shall I even continue bothering with this game? It was a pretty dead game. But what was the indictment is how we capitulated as soon as they got their backs up. The first one goes in, I'm thinking, you know what, maybe we'll score. Just kill it now, 4-1. As soon as that second one goes in, you're thinking, okay, let's tune in. This could be a bumpy ride, because we've seen this from us a few times, right? We had a good lead. Maybe in some games we've had a couple of goals up, we end up drawing. Other games, 2 minutes to go, you can't hold it. And as soon as they got the third, you know, I thought we started to shrink, and they looked better in extra time. And I have to say, man, just to finish, I was willing Coventry to win. And when that VAR was being checked, I was thinking, you know, let it be. Let this FA Cup magic happen. You know, they deserve it. This comeback is amazing, and their fans were brilliant. You know, and then we go through on penalties. I was a bit feeling cringe that we've snatched it. We've took it away on penalties from them. If it was any other team, I'm not bothered. The Premier League team, fine, you know. But you know, it's Coventry, and it's a nice story. And I was upset. I was angry. You know, why do you capitulate in this way? What's wrong with your mentality? Why'd you get scared? You know, you play in this cowardly fashion. So this was my take on the game. It wasn't a great game, but the narrative, the story that developed in the game was where, you know, it's what you love about the FA Cup. That was, since I was a kid, you know, FA Cup is magic, and we nearly got some magic, but this is the problem. It was a carbon copy of something that we've seen a lot of, and it's a facet of our team, our side, that is a big problem. The mentality.
Yeah, but do you think the mentality comes from above? You know, with the with the owners, or does it come from Ten Hag, or is it with the players, the money?
I think the owners are bad for a manager. There's no conduit from the pitch that leads up to good, sensible decision making with some foresight. But I don't put the Glazers in the picture on mentality. This is my team. This is my dressing room. This is my training session. We criticize them for seldom being there. So if I touch a little bit on Stu's individual performances, sometimes a player has to take stock of his own performance irrespective of everybody else on the team. Have a little bit of pride in your own performance. And if it's not going well, just do the basics right and put a shift in. Just put a shift in. You have to put a shift in. That's what I tell my boys when we play. Sometimes we're up, all of a sudden we find ourselves losing and we're getting desperate. Just relax. Off the ball, do your job. Do not just, open up, make it difficult. They have to earn whatever it is that they're going to get against us. So you have to put that shift in. And if you do, that's, a great foundation. But I think I was touching on this the other night on Real United Therapy. The petulant instances that are cropping up with our players throughout the course of the season are indicative of something that doesn't exist in any other club, especially the 6 that we are supposed to be part of. I think Eric deals with them relatively well. He doesn't elongate his answers. It's very closed, which is good. It's dealt with, we move on. But like Garnacho pressing that, nobody's going to do that at City or Liverpool or Arsenal. They don't roll like that. You don't see that.
Yeah.
That tells me we have an underlying issue. That tells me it's a little bit loose in that dressing room, and all ships are not sailing quite in the same direction. And I feel we're starting to fray at the seams a little bit with manager, players. Do we believe in him? Are we enjoying being deployed in this fashion every week? Is it nice to put an absolute shift in and not have much fruits to yield at the end of, a grueling 90 minutes? All these things start to mount up and culminate, and you're starting to see them a little bit more over the last few weeks. And this is what I think. I think the manager has to get his house in order. And you have to, as a manager, make your players believe in you. Convince them game by game, you're better and better, and I'm one of you. And I don't know if Eric is doing that. And then you have individual performances that you can call out. Like, there's been instances, we'll just go to Rashford with his application or lack thereof. It's been so vivid at times this season. You're asking yourself, do you know there's 80,000 people watching you? Well, it's not going to go unnoticed, man. Do your job. Put your shift in. So it's a culmination of both, but unfortunately, the book in football stops with the manager. You can't change a team overnight, but you can change a manager. And this is one of the cons of being a manager when it's not going so well.
Yeah, you're touching on something there. We talked a little bit about this after the show, you and me, Bombaye, about Ten Hag, his charisma, how his way to get his I don't know, his vision to the players out, to tell them, make them believe. And I stated I think Ten Hag lacks a little bit of charisma and also a little bit of creativity. He's very set in his way, how he set up his teams, and he's very stubborn. It's a character of Ten Hag. He's extremely stubborn, and sometimes I think especially when you manage a big group of players, now we talk about 20, 25, 30 players in a squad, you have to be a little bit flexible because every individual demands something. You can't just be 100% rigid because it creates, I don't know, the culture to grow inside the group in a way. Stu, how do you see it when it comes to Den Haag? Do you think this is right, or?
I saw the game actually very similar to Tom and Bombaye in many ways. And when I look at my own experiences of playing, And I look at the games that we played in the past, and some of the games where we've actually steamrolled them. When we've been in what we call a position of strength. But there's times though where I've stepped onto the pitch and we've been 3-0 down ourselves, and we spoke about it at half time, and the gaffer's always said to us, he says something will happen in this half what will give you an in, and we'll look at him quizzical. What your first aim that you're thinking to yourself is, let's not get embarrassed this half. Let's try and do something this half. As Bumbier said, if you're having a bad game, do the basics, control it and move it off 5-10 yards, warm yourself back into it for the next 5 or 10 minutes. But our gaffer, he always used to say something will happen, and it will be a ball off the knee. It'll be 2 players will run into each other, or something will happen, and what it will do, it will galvanise you, because the ball will ricochet to you and you'll make this move. Now, you may not score off this move, but you'll find a way that you hadn't found in the first half to get behind them and cause problems. And this is exactly what happened with Coventry yesterday. Bumbier was absolutely 100% on the button. They got that goal by hook or by crook, and it doesn't matter how it comes, you get a goal. And all of a sudden, hold on, we scored against Manchester United, and it wasn't nowhere near as difficult as we thought it would be. We've managed to penetrate them. We managed to hit the back of the net. Before you know it, in the first half, if you're in possession 20-25 yards out, you're looking for that pass either to either of the wings, or you're looking to do a football. You're not looking to shoot like the player did. He takes a pot shot, bang, off Wan-Bissaka. Before you know it, Coventry at 3-2. And all of a sudden, the whole complexity of the game changes. And the team that was 3-0 up and cruising, I'm not talking about Manchester United, Coventry, no, I'm talking about any team. You start to question yourself, and everything that when the ball comes near to you or in your vicinity, you start to doubt yourself. You start to think, oh, Jesus, am I going to be one that's going to make that mistake? And you take your focus off what you were doing. And yet the opposition is just smelling blood. There's fire in their eyes, and everything they do hits. Every 40-yard ball hits. Every 10-yard ball hits. Every 50-50 you win. Every tackle you win. Every bit of strength competition you win. Everything you win. And before you know it, you're in this position of power, and then it gives you this inner belief that you could almost walk into the ring with Mike Tyson, and you could take 2 minutes of power, one punch, and you put him down. It's a very strange feeling when you've got this about you in a game. And I'm not saying we were shell shocked by what happened, but we just couldn't get to grips with this marauding team. And again, the lads, Tom and Bumbier, were both right. Coventry were the better side. They were more controlled. I thought it was interesting. I like body language, as you know, Jarvis. And when the goal went in, now we didn't see the initial Robins reaction. I did ask Jake, because Jake, my lad, was there, but he said he had his head in his hands, when Torp had popped it in. So he didn't see. But when you looked at the camera angle at Robins, he just calmly was walking up the touchline, well aware it could have been or it couldn't have been offside. And I like that coolness. I like that calmness, because when you're a player and you're looking at the pitch, you need to look and maybe at the gaffer or maybe at the coaches, look them in the eye and see what they're telling you. And he just looked calm, collected. Even when they were 3-0 down, there didn't look any panic on his face. And I looked at Ten Hag yesterday, and there were times where he didn't actually. He looked a bit blank. I don't think he knew what to do and how to change this issue. But the title of this show is it the players or the manager to blame? And like I said, at the beginning, my performance yesterday was dismal. And so it's me. I can only blame myself. And I'm listening to Bruno. Well, we can't. I think he was asked about Ten Hag yesterday in the post-match interview, and he said, "Oh, that's not something we worry about as players, but you should do. You should be worrying about that. You should be worrying about your own performance. You should be worrying about get past Sheffield United and what the hell are we going to do on the 25th of May or 24th of May, whenever it is, when we turn on City. So, in answer to your question, I don't think you'll really know. You don't know as a player until the following morning when you've really had time to think about how you conducted yourself on the pitch and, you know, where you were at fault and why you were at fault and why it wouldn't click and why it hasn't clicked. But to be fair, again, the lads have both summed it up eloquently. We've done it all season. So we're not asking those questions. The players aren't asking those questions between themselves because nothing's changed. So I love the FA Cup as well, by the way. You know, I'm a 70s child. Yeah. You know, 76. Neil, I remember 1976 against Southampton. Bobby Stokes, the little fucker, I'd have pulled his hair, but anyway, that's another thing. And then obviously in 79 with Alan Sunderland, and I definitely would have pulled his hair because he had tons of it. And those are games, you know, with the Arsenal game, we were 2-0 down and we came back, but we couldn't hold on like Coventry did, and then, you know, they go up and score. So, you know, the beauty of football is it doesn't matter sometimes your opposition. And I've read yesterday we should be beating the mid-level championship sides. You should on paper, absolutely. But, you know, you've played football long enough, mate. You know what it's like. That you can play a lower league team and you can get your ass whipped and handed to you because they just want it that little bit more. They're quicker to the ball because they've got absolutely, as Tom Journalist said, fuck all to lose. They've got all to lose. So last night when we did a show on the Devil's Advocate, it was a bit raw and I hadn't had time to think it through. But now I've had time to think it through. I just analyse it like any other game of football, you know, and there were certain elements and mistakes that we made. But there are certain players out there you'd expect to have that brain, that attitude and that aptitude to be able to sometimes just put your foot on the ball, you know, keep arm's length for 5 minutes. But we haven't done that all season, have we? You know, we concede a goal. Sorry, we score a goal, and then what happens? 2 minutes later, we've gone up conceded a goal. So it was nothing new, really. We should have all been expecting something. So anyway, like I say, yesterday I was angry. I was raw. I thought, you know, I've made a mistake taking Maino off. I asked the question, was he injured? I don't know. He hasn't come out and said he was injured, has he? Garnacho was off shaking his head, but I thought Ahmed had a good cameo when he came on. I didn't think Eriksen covered himself in glory, but, you know, 20 minutes for Eriksen is barely played against a team like Coventry who were rushing that torp. He was like an Energizer bunny, wasn't he? He, you know, when he came on. I like Sims up top for him, big, strong, powerful. Thought Maguire handled him quite well for, you know, 90% of the game. Thought Maguire played well for us. Don't know, a bit like Bombayé, I think, you know, the whole day, I think you kind of peter off. I think the aggression yesterday is gone and the anger's gone, and I think it's a more of a balanced view that I've tried to give there.
Yeah. I like your perspectives too, and I had the same like emotions yesterday. I was a little bit angry, but I settled down, and now today I have more of a thought like, what's the point beating a dead horse in a way, you know? I don't know if you have that expression in England, but something like that. And in a way, the topic of tonight's show is it the player or the managers, players or the manager? Where lies the problem within this club and our current state? And for me, I think that's very interesting, because for me it's not a straightforward, because I think everybody falls directly to Ten Hag now. It's the manager end of discussion, but I think it's more complex, it's more nuanced than that. And I would like to bring out, you know, some things when it comes to Ten Hag, his tactics, his styles. It's about he lacks a lot of things in this team to make it work. He lacks left-footed defenders because we don't have a left back. We have a right right back who plays left back at the moment with the right foot. It's about the angles. We know Ten Hag and his principles. It's about the angles. He said so himself when he benched Varane, for example. He didn't want to play Varane as left centre back because he needed the angles. It's about playing out from the back, because when you play out from the back in this Ten Hag system, we always attack or play out in the 3-1 formation. So we have one of the fullbacks in vert and then one of the midfielders dropping down, and you have to play a short game, very simple, and you're not in overload in that area, because you're only 4 players playing out against the opposition. And today's game, it's about high press and a lot of people committing. So it's very hard because we haven't had the right group of players. So we lack left-footed defenders. We lack a regista, a ball-playing, deep-lying playmaker who can drop down and solve this role. And we haven't been able to play out from the back. And this is one of the things why we can't control games. And it's also why all the games come into chaos, because it's all about firing rockets long against Højlund, for example, who's up against 2 or 3 center backs, losing the duels. It's all about effort, second balls, and running in a way. And I don't think Ten Hag, in a way, cherishes this chaos football. I think he's more into control, because if you see back in his days at Ajax, it was more about control, possession, and controlling the game. But I think he's also meeting himself in the door again and again, because he doesn't understand when to change it up, be a little bit more creative. I see you want to say something, Stu.
I do, because I'm absolutely 100%. It's a lovely analogy. And what we're missing is a 60-yard push. I totally agree. And the 60-yard push is, we don't have that, as Jarvis so eloquently put it, we don't have that deep-lying player. And let's use Frankie de Jong. You know I'm not a fan of Frankie de Jong, Jarvis, but let's just use him as an example. So you're talking 20 yards. You're talking just above our penalty area. If a deep-lying player like de Jong can take the ball then and then rush it for 60 yards, you don't have this issue that Jarvis was talking about, of Højlund having to play with his back to goal. Okay, if you can progress, transition the ball 40, 50, 60 yards, you can get up the pitch quickly. You can get up the pitch as a unit. Me and Jarvis talk a lot. Jarvis likes my saying pendulum football, don't you? Because that's what pendulum football is. That's taking it from the back and that's transitioning it, but not transitioning it with a, as Jarvis pointed out, a 40, 50, 60-yard pass. It's a 60-yard run. It's called a 60-yard dash. It's almost from end to end, really. And the idea is to absolutely destroy the opposition with speed. It's not all about your accuracy, your pass. It's about somebody running with it, going around 1 or 2 players, knocking it, taking it, knocking it, taking it. And that gets you up the pitch in what we call a pendulum formation. What that then does, as you said, Jarvis, I do like your analogy on football, mate. I really do. Because it frees up Højlund. It then means that Højlund can play on the shoulder, but he can spin in between. And that's what he's not doing. And if he can spin in between, because we've moved the ball up so quickly, he's where he needs to be, which is in the 6-yard box. And a great example of this, I'm sorry, and I don't want to dig Højlund out, is he should have scored that goal, not McTominay, the first goal. McTominay was exactly where Højlund was. But because we had a more slow, methodical amble up the pitch. If you remember, we ambled up the pitch then. Instead of this absolute dash, this 60-yard dash, Højlund would have been where we needed. Because when you've got players as dynamic as Garnacho, and Rashford to an extent when he's on his game, I know you're going to beat me up in the comments about it, but when he's on his game, Højlund's already there. He doesn't have to make that yardage up. He's already there, and he can time his run better. So, Jarvis, once again, old friend, nail on the head. You can mic drop, my pal, because mic drop. Come on, give me a mic drop. Because that pal is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, mate. Yeah.
I just want to say some of the comments in the VAR room. Rushmano comes in, he says 70% players, 30% Eric Ten Hag. And we have poor options on the bench. So he plays his best option to win the game. It's that simple. I see also we have other comments about, I saw here Riot V comes in and they say 60% players, 40% Ten Hag. Ten
There's a
Hag's
theme coming. There's a theme coming, Jarvis. There's a theme.
Yeah. So I think people now are really recognizing these problems, because we have to point it out from a technical, tactical point of view. You know, a manager can't do everything. And Jale Malmin comes in, and since everybody's tossing it out 50-50 on players and managers always.
Well,
So
you know, it's a good viewpoint. But like I say, I'll always see it from a player's point of view, so I'll always blame myself. So
yeah.
you know, that's it. God, Georgie Best is in the house. How you doing, pal? 90% players.
Yeah.
So he
So,
can't blame
Tom,
them.
are you back? Are you here?
Yeah, I'm back now.
Yeah. So on the topic, you know, I defend Ten Hag a little bit. You know, I'm not his biggest fan. I think he lacks in-game management. I think he could do things differently. I think he's too stubborn. He lacks creativity in a way. But how do you see it? Is it more Ten Hag, or is it more the players, or is it 50-50, or how do you see it?
I think it sways, personally, in my opinion, I think it sways more towards the manager than it does the players. And I'll give one key reason as to why. He claims and he goes on about injuries and consistency of not being able to pick his first team. You could argue he's only actually missed two key players for large portions of this season, and that's Martinez and Luke Shaw, because they've not played for large portions of the season. Onana's his first choice goalkeeper. You'd say on the basis of even when everybody was fit, he was still picking Maguire, even ahead of Varane. So Maguire's clearly in the team. You'd say Delo or Wan-Bissaka would play right back regardless anyway. So that solves that. Casemiro's been fit for large parts of this season. Kobe Mino's emerged into the team. He's clearly a Ten Hag player. Fernandes has been fit for most of the season. Garnacho's played most of the season. He's a player, again, that he's inherited into his team and that he's brought through the ranks. So he sees him and identifies him as being good enough for his team. Højlund, to his credit anyway, apart from at the start of the season when he had a little bit of a layoff, he's played most of the season. And on the right-hand side, he had Anthony for large portions of the season. He's had Rashford, who could interchange there. He's had most of his team, guys. I'm not going to defend the guy that much more, to be honest with you. Yeah, he can have maybe a couple of players missing here and there each week. That's football. Football teams, big teams have it. Manchester City have players missing here and there every couple of weeks. Liverpool have it. Players calling for illness or calling due to they've had an injury and the medical department's writ them off from playing. It happens. But I do think a more portion weighs towards the manager based upon I don't think he's getting a lot of good out of what we've got. I've seen these players when they had no manager and supposedly no coaching under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they could play football, guys. They could transition, they could counter-attack. I've seen them do it. I've seen Harry Maguire bring the ball 20, 30 yards forward, but he doesn't do it. He plays a sideward pass all the time. I've seen Scott McTominay. Listen, he's not the brilliantest, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed on the ball, but he'll run 30, 40 yards with the ball. He doesn't do it. He does that role that you've just said about that Frankie de Jong does. He can run with the ball 30 yards, McTominay. No problem. He just chooses not to. He chooses not to because he doesn't trust in his own football instinct. But at the end of the day, the whole argument with the manager and the players, it balances itself out anyway. I think the players I think they don't have much faith in the guy. I don't necessarily think he's been given any trust from people above him, as much as he claims and he speaks out saying that he believes that he has the backing from the people above him. You can't have the backing when not one person above you in any of the hierarchy. The incoming CEO, the technical director now, Wilcox, Ratcliffe himself or Brailsford. Nobody in an interview or publicly or privately said that you're in the job for next year. Nobody's given you any guarantees at all. I think the players are clearly sensing that there's a lot of uncertainty around his role. I don't necessarily think that the players help themselves out in any cases at all. I don't. I think, for me anyway, I don't see Bruno Fernandes as a captain. I really don't. There's been far too many games this season that you can't see a game out. In, like I said, that Coventry block of that 20 minutes, as soon as the first goal went in, and you know that you're going to be under the cosh for the rest of the game, your captain needs to lead on the field. They need to calm players down. They need to put players in the right area, almost be the manager and the coach on the field. Be the instructor, be the conductor. That's what they say. That's what I've always said in football. If you're going to play as the captain, you need to show your leadership skills by, first of all, organising your team for that final 10-minute barrage that you're going to get. Because you know you're going to get it in that sort of game. Teams like Coventry, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity where they've got to. Yeah. And in the exact same case with Copenhagen, Galatasaray, those teams don't always consistently play in the Champions League. They don't. One year they're in it, one year they're not. So it's a joy for when they're actually there. And they'll throw the kitchen sink at it. And those teams, every single time that they've done it against us, have caused us problems. But at the end of the day, I look at, like I say, you can say there's about 50 cases of injury and all of this. Other clubs around us have had mega injuries and are having success with mediocre players. Mediocre players. As much as people want to go up about other teams, listen, Postecoglou, I remember one time, he didn't have any three of his midfielders and he didn't have any back four. He still played the same way and he was still getting results. That's coaching. That's finding a way. The problem that this manager's not painting himself in glory with is when he's had these mini gaps in the season, these international breaks, he should have gone away with his team and come up with a solution to the problem. From game one, our problem has always been we've been ran through in midfield. We have been. Mateus Cunha gives me nightmares every single night because he's the player who targeted us in the weakest area of the field and exposed our whole season. That one player. He ran all the way through midfield, 40 yards, and nobody touched them for 90 minutes in that game. And how we won the game, I have no clue. I have no clue at all. And there's so many games in this season, the opposition team have done the exact same thing. Run straight through midfield. We said it a couple of weeks ago when we won against Liverpool 4-3. Supposedly, there was not even a Man United player 30 yards near it. And he just walked straight to the goal. That's how open we are. A manager needs to identify the problem. We can see it as fans, so he's intelligent enough to identify the problem. Find a solution for it. You're a top manager. You're at the biggest football club in the world. There's solutions to it. I don't care. Change the formation. Change the personnel. Do whatever you've got to do. Tinker with it. Show me that you're doing something differently. And that's the thing that you say, Jarvis, isn't it? He's stubborn. He's stubborn. Yeah. He's stuck to the same way of playing, the same formation. He's done nothing to try and limit the damage or change the situation. And that's the problem that I have with him. But as much as I say, like I say with Erik ten Hag, my personal opinion anyway, from what I've seen, I don't see a future with the guy. I personally don't. I think he will be moved on regardless of what any of us think. I do think they'll bring in their own person anyway. They've changed everything but the manager. But if they replace the manager, a lot of these players, I want to see them go anyway. As much as we want to say for our own sake, I think even just for their own personal selves, as much as the flack that Marcus Rashford gets, to be honest with you, I think he needs to go somewhere else. Not in the Premier League. I think he needs to go abroad, clear his air, do what Harry Kane's done. Go abroad, have a couple of seasons in sunny Spain or Germany, wherever you want to go. Go and play in another big football club in a different environment that he's not used to, because all he knows is Manchester United, and he's not necessarily been a success personally with this team. Bruno Fernandes, you could argue, is the exact same thing. He comes to this football club. He had a brilliant start to it, but has he really uplifted Manchester United standards? We bottle games, guys. We've been to finals with this guy. I remember Europa League under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, semi-finals. We bottled games with Bruno Fernandes, is it? And he's a massive critic for a lot of people who throw stick at him. But like I say, if you're going to get rid of the manager, as much as I would do personally anyway, I would get rid of him in the summer. I want to see 5, 6, 7 to 8 players roll out the door with him. And as much as people laughed at me, even when I come on here 4 or 5 months ago, and I said I'd rather have what Chelsea have than what we've got right now. Because at least Chelsea identify a problem in their structure, which is we don't have a winning team. So what do? You flip the whole club upside down. You bring in new directors, like they've done. You bring in a new manager, like they've done. You bring in new players, like they've done. They've turned the whole football club and capsized it. But the one thing that Chelsea have on us, guys, is they've got a team that in 3-4 years' time might be successful. because they've got young players. We have an aging, depleting squad. We've got a manager who a lot of people are unsure about anyway, which way you are or not. You've got directors above who you don't know what influence they're going to have because of the dodgy deal that Ratcliffe and the Glazers have. There's still that uncertainty of who's in control. There's a lot of question marks and there's hardly any answers. But the biggest one for me anyway is if you can replace the manager tomorrow, I'm fine with that. But I want the manager replacing. I think if you look at anything, irrespective of the manager for 1 second, the medical department is a fucking disgrace. It needs to be ripped to shreds. No team has that many cases of injury in a season. If this was a Man United team that was capable of winning the league, we would be sat here grilling them, because it would cost you. If you're in a title challenging position and you've lost that many players throughout a season, you're going to be concerned, guys. You are going to be concerned. And as a football player and as an agent in football, I would not send my player to Manchester United under these circumstances and conditions. Because Licha Martinez was a very potential prospect player when he was at Ajax. Ever since he's come to Manchester United, the medical department, I think they've put a knife in him. I really do think they've put a knife in him. And I think he might be that another case of Eric Bailly. He's a brilliant player when he comes. As soon as he gets that one injury, it derails his whole career. Daley Blind was exactly the same thing. Brilliant player coming United. One injury derailed the whole career. So for me, you can replace Ten Hag tomorrow. That's fine. I want the medical department replacing. This new structure is going to come in and set the style of play and set the managers that we hire and fire. That's fine. I'm not asked about that. That happens at every football club. It should be a standard. A club has one way of playing, and that's it. Not 5, 6 different managers, and they want to play a different way. You pick one style, you pick one set of managers to target, and if the manager's not good enough, because the style of play is set, then it's the manager who's the problem, because the players can play that system of football. So I'd replace, like I said before, with the Chelsea argument. I'd have had what Chelsea had months ago, because at least they've got a future. What do we have right now? We don't know what our future's like. They've got a future of young talents, Cole Palmer's, the new slice of bread. You can have potential there with what Pochettino's got. And Chelsea, as much as people want to laugh at them for their season that they've had, they'll go above us soon. They can leapfrog us. They can leapfrog us tomorrow when they
have one game in hand and
Arsenal, they have a game in hand. They can leapfrog us, guys. And people have been laughing at this team for the whole season. It's embarrassing, guys. It really is embarrassing. So at the end of the day, consistency as a whole, we need to restructure the whole football club from top to bottom. If the manager goes, fine. I want his coaching staff. I want the medical department. I want a whole reshuffle. Complete domino effect. Sign people off. Sign P45s. Do what you got to do. I don't care. Bring in a whole new football structure, new manager, new medical department, new players. Everything has to be new. That's what I'm saying anyway. If you're gonna replace a lot of things, replace the whole lot of it, and then we'll see where we are in 2 or 3 years' time under a new manager. But if we're looking at it even just with the naked eye, guys, put your opinion on the manager one way or another. I don't think these players want to play for Manchester United, let alone play for Eric Ten Hag, and that's worrying. And I think that's the biggest concern more than even the manager. But for me, I think it slides more towards the manager based upon the level of delusion I think he comes out with the words that he comes out with anyway.
Yeah, Tom, a lot of people are reacting to what you're saying in the chat, and you have people who follow you and agree, and people who disagree. A lot of people ask questions. Which manager would you like to bring in? What will be the alternative? My style
of football, I've always liked the gegenpressing style. I saw a brilliant cameo of 30 minutes that we saw against Crystal Palace with Ralph Ragnick, and I saw the players attach themselves to that football. And do you know something? Out of all the managers that we've had, and all the different styles that we've had, that felt the most suited to how these players could play, because you can take a counter-attacking team and you can put them in a pressing system, because the only difference instead of counter-attacking and pressing is you have players in front of you that you run at, not space. That's the difference. You target the man, you don't target the space. It's easy to transition from that. So what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer left for Ragnick, where he could work on in that sort of system, it was an element of what he could do. The problem that Ragnick had was He was in a mediocre contract. He wasn't even really brought in to be the coach, if we're facing facts, guys. He was brought in for his guidance and direction to run a football club. That was supposedly part of the deal. And we ended up signing him off and P45 in him anyway. So he didn't even get his influence, what he was going to come for anyway. But with the way that he set the football, the players attached themselves to that way of playing for 30 minutes. And yeah, you can say it for what it is, it's 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes of good football. And it's that we was all entertained by. But also, the only problem with the players is, like Smurf's saying here, they gave up. That's the only problem. The players gave up. But if a new manager come in the summer and played that way, and they drilled that for a whole pre-season and said, this is the plan that we're going to play. If you don't like it, you can get off the bus. It's as simple as that. My way or the highway, then fine, that's fair enough. But for me, if I'm going to name managers out there anyway, I've always said my personal preference. I would have gone for Hansi Flick. I like the aggressive style of football. He's been in big football clubs. He's in big pressure situations. Bayern Munich, he won all the trophies that he did. Played brilliant football. Managed big football players in a structure at Bayern Munich where it's very complex. The set style is in principle. The manager has to follow in line with the principles of the recruitment team, and that's exactly what we have right now. You want a coach to come in. You don't want a manager. The guy can coach. I've seen the guy win Champions Leagues, mega medals. I've seen it all. But the one thing that, especially anyway with Hansi Flick, that the only thing that people will throw against me probably in the comments is what happened with Germany. Germany aren't blessed with a gorgeous talent like what England have of young players. They have an aging, depleting team, which arguably, guys, have been atrocious at the last two international tournaments. So he was turfed out of there easily. Fine, fair enough. But if it comes to Manchester United with the right guidance and structure, and this is the thing, guys, I don't necessarily think we have to even just agree upon a manager. If they set a style of this is the way that we're going to play, and as fans, we buy it, or we buy the little bit of BS that they're coming out with and saying, look, we're going to play gegenpressing, we're going to play tick-attack, we're going to play whatever. If they hire managers that play that way, and we have some decent football, guys, and there's a bit of a progression, there's a bit of a journey, kind of like what Spurs have right now with Postecoglou, where they're playing good football and they can see a future. Right now, we can't see a future with Ten Hag because you don't know what the style of play is. That's the issue that we have right now. Whereas if you bring in a manager, like I said before, people want to go up about De Zerbi. I know Nuruddin says about it all the time. Gets on about De Zerbi. De Zerbi is coaching a club which is massively punched above its weight. It's on par with some of the best football clubs in the world in terms of recruitment and how successful they are. But the one thing that I want to watch with De Zerbi anyway is if he takes that step up, he's going to work with bigger and better players who can play that. If they can play that way, I think he'll be very successful because he's doing it with amateur players at Brighton. Very amateur players. Lewis Dunk would not play for Manchester United. Pascal Gross would not play for Manchester United. A lot of those Brighton players, you would argue, are not fit for purpose to play for a stature of a club like Man United. But that football club plays better than us and he's run better than us, regardless of the league position. That's what people will argue. So at the end of the day, if you bring in a manager, it's fine. But the manager will transition probably into a coach role. And that's why I think Ineos, they want a coach. They want somebody who's going to come in Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. This is what we're doing. Training sessions, drills. If they do something wrong in training, pause the whole training session. This is where you're going wrong. Let's readjust. Let's re-rack up. Let's set. Right, we'll go again if you make a mistake. And prove to the players this is where you're going wrong in games. The problem with these players is they haven't been symbolised with the mistakes that they're making. A lot of mistakes that we've had this season, guys, have been minor. One of the biggest ones that I'll say anyway is my last point is the cutback. The cutback this season has been our killer in many games. I've seen so many goals this season where they've conceded the cutback and teams have just, a player's whacked onto it and scored. A cutback is easily avoidable when you have a mobile defensive midfielder. A mobile defensive midfielder, not like Casemiro, if I had to argue, probably a mix of, say, what Rodri does and Rice does. Whereas Rice has the leg work, he can get out to players. He's been systemized to play that way. Rodri's a little bit more ball orientated. He works a lot better at scanning the areas, a little bit like Casemiro, but with legs. That's what Roger gives you. He gives you the experience and the stability. Manchester United don't have that player. Casemiro, 5 years ago, maybe when he could run it and get about the pitch, was that player. He's not anymore. He's past it. The Premier League, the league's far too quick for him. The speed's far too quick for him. So if you've got that player in, you avoid that cutback situation easily. That's a recruitment strategy plan. The recruitment team should buy that player who can solve that issue. And they should have done that in January, but they didn't because of all this BS with the ownership situation. That's where you need a football club to take control. Or, like I say, you have a manager who, like I said with Erik ten Hag in those breaks that he had in the season, the international breaks, he can take that time out and say, right, we're conceding far too many cutback goals. What are we going to do about it? All right, we're going to change the formation so we don't hold that position. Or we're going to drop Fernandes a lot deeper so he's on the edge of the box and he can control the space of where players are going to be running. And he can make an interception or he can make a block. That's what you need to do. There needs to be a solution process. But like I agree with you, Jarvis, anyway, what you said. Ten Hag's biggest fault for me, anyway, is his in-game management. And he fails to... I think he understands that things are going wrong in the game. I think everybody can understand that. But he fails to act on it decisively. And the reason why I think he fails decisively to react on it is because in the Eredivisie, you can get away with things like that because the quality is not as good. In the Champions League, he conceded a lot of goals in games. I think a lot of people fail to see that in the Ajax team. He had a lot of success, but he had a lot of games that finished 4-3, 3-2, either or way to his team. Either they lost or they won. Those games in those goals, they hardly kept clean sheets. That's the issue. But like I say, in terms of the whole structure, you can fire names at me in the chat and everybody, guys. I respect everybody's opinion as always. But the manager needs to come in place and let the recruitment team recruit the players for him and work Monday to Friday, coaching the team for either the Saturday game, the Tuesday game, the Thursday game, whatever game it is. Let the coach do the work on the training pitch. Let the recruitment recruit the players for you. That's all that I want at this football club. Yeah. Because I've seen the success of that model that I've just said about there. By Barcelona, when they had the success that they had with Pep Guardiola. I've seen it at Manchester City now. I've seen it at Liverpool with Klopp. I've seen it with Arteta at Arsenal, albeit they've not won anything yet. But there's a future there. They're competing. We're doing nothing. We're just sat back in his armchairs. We haven't got really much to celebrate, guys. That's the problem. Whereas every single club around us has a future or they have something to be proud of. What do we have to be proud of right now? Not a lot.
Yeah. You have a lot of points there. It's hard to pick on that rant, but that's fantastic, Tom, and I think you touched on a lot of points that the fans think about at the moment, and the fan base is I would say split a little bit in the middle. We did a vote here on MUFC Realist TV, and the problem is the manager or the players. There was 70% who blames the players, and only 23% of our viewers who think that Ten Hag is the problem. Before I bring in Boumbaye, you have been waiting for a long time, my friend. I just want to bring up this because I got this on my Google timeline today. On Google Photo, and today, the 22nd of April 2014, was the day David Moyes was sacked in the club. So basically, we have been having this discussion, manager in, manager out, for over 10 years today, officially. And it tells you a lot about us as a fan base, how much we have been through. And it seems like we always fall back to blaming the manager in a way. And it started with Moyes, went to Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, Ragnick, and now Ten Hag. And it's a never-ending story. But I will give Boumbaye a chance to answer this question: players or manager? What do you think, Boumbaye? What's your take?
First, let me just do a shout out to Stephanie Griffith, Jala, Alien Tenno, and my man Lillis in the comments. Some really good stuff happening there. I'll give you a parable. This might help to be a bit more succinct about things. Eric Ten Hag has invited the four of us and everybody in the show, everyone in the panel, on a massive coach, and he's saying we're going to drive cross-country road trip to Spain. Turns out we've been going in the wrong direction for 2 days. We didn't even realize we were in France and now heading to Germany. And at this point, we said, forget it, Eric. We can't be asked going to Spain anymore. Let's just go back home. This is generally my feeling with Eric Ten Hag. If you can, I hope that brings it home. I think Eric Ten Hag hasn't hit the key indicators that afford him a third season. I empathize that this job can be made more difficult than it needs to be because we don't have that conduit, that open communication that is made of good experience, good CVs like we're trying to bring in now to help him. To like Michael Edwards said to Klopp, no, Salah is the guy you need, not Julian Brand. This is the player that you need. You can't keep Milner for another year. I know you're sentimental, but it doesn't work that way. And he's been magnificent for Liverpool. Not only buying, but look at how they sell. Terrific. We don't really have that. So why isn't he hit the key indicators? Why am I going to say to you, we need a new manager? And everybody knows the manager that I want, contrary to popular opinion. I can't see past Antonio.
He's wearing a wig. He's wearing a wig.
Conte, right? Just that's it. I know it's not popular, but I promise you, it's a fit. Anyway, Eric, one thing I'd say is I empathize with the Manchester United defense. And I remember having a lot of back and forths with my friends saying, listen, you guys think these City defenders are, pure gold. They're never tested. They're barely tested. And when they are tested, they get popped. Even since the Leicester days, we're going to defend deep, but we have a plan to transition. And we're going to test this defense because we have pace. We're direct. I remember seeing Jamie Vardy eat Laporte for breakfast when everybody was shouting and raving about him. I look at this City team, they concede goals. They're conceding goals. Our defense, two things, is tested constantly because we are so open. 25 to 20 attempts at goal per game is our welcome package for any team that plays us. So I do feel with that defense. And what tends to happen with United, the more sometimes you feel that your opposition, they don't really pose much of a threat. We're quite comfortable. We shut up shop and we're just waiting for our moment to counter. The more teams start to get bold as the game progresses. This is natural. If you don't have anything to offer, you're not scary. We come here expecting something. We felt the game out. Bournemouth felt the game out. Started attacking. Everton felt the game out. They went for it. Coventry, I'd say if they'd been a bit bolder, but they wanted to stay in the game. I get that. You know what? They got their chance. They got their goal. The second one was a stroke of luck, fine. But what did they do after that? They thought, like Stu said, this doesn't take a miracle to score against these. The myth is broken. Let's go. We got nothing to lose, and let's really go for it. Let's try for it. And you know what? They could have won it. So he's not built a team that's made of anything. It's very soft. You look at other managers we've had previously. We went on big runs, unbeaten, big runs. We beat teams. Even under Ole, we come back. We always came back under Ole. Second half. Under Van Gaal, we go places. We batter teams. We possession-based football. So he's not built a possession team. Van Gaal gave you a possession team. I've not seen any United team in recent memory go to Liverpool and slap them up the way we did. We were very press resistant, even though we were in a major transitional period. It wasn't as settled even as it is now. I think we changed over 10 players in one window, and look at how quickly he got us playing that brand. Ahead of its time, that possession football. We love it now, but that was what we were doing. We had Mata as a right winger. Then you look at Jose Mourinho, again, contrary to popular opinion. Another manager, I think it was a mistake to let Van Gaal go. I think we should have backed Mourinho, not Pogba and the players. Jose, okay, he sees that I've not got what I want. I've fallen out with my guy, Paul. I'm having problems with Anthony. I'd like them gone. But in the meantime, I'm going to hide our weaknesses, which is our defense. I'm going to go get them 1-0 victories. And we were a team that could get 1-0 victories, play poorly and win ugly. These are qualities that are part of the facets that culminate to make a team from a holistic point of view. You need to be able to do a lot of things. The old saying goes, it's good to play bad and win. It's good. We can't play bad and get anywhere. We can't do it. And the problem is, so he's neither of those. He's persisted with the same exact thing from the beginning of the season right the way through the season. Okay, you don't see that it's not working. In terms of football, does anybody enjoy watching Man United? I go to games now with an apprehension of what am I going to get? What do I expect? I'm not excited. I'm worried. And I'm not worried about the result. I'm worried about, I want to just enjoy football. I want to just enjoy watching us. That's all. I loved the FA Cup against Liverpool. Yeah, they could have been out of sight, but we stayed in it. It was an exciting game. We were part of something worthwhile watching, but that's seldom the case with United. Stumbling over the line, not playing very well, And I'm talking about crap teams here. I'm talking about Burnley. Cast your eyes back to Bruno had to score a volley. They outplayed us. Everton, relegation. Luton. Bournemouth demolished us. It was a demolition. It was embarrassing for the whole 97 minutes. Brentford, excuse me. And Bournemouth. So I'm not even talking about City yet. I'm not even, we go into play City every week. And really, it's true. Is it going to be a big one? Are we going to get demolished? This isn't Man United. And we've not made any progress. We're stood exactly where we are. What are we? What qualities do we have that you look at and think, this is our power? This is what is our strength? We're not really good at anything. Most of the pundits, weekly basis, tell you, what is the plan? What are they trying to do? I mean, it's not even working. So why don't you change it? Why did you continue to attack in so many games this season when we were goals up? Just see it out, man. Go for a low block. Forget it. Don't. What's wrong with him? You keep I feel like I've been watching the same game for 6 months and it's not ended yet. We got, a few more weeks of it. And that's because we're not changed anything. We're not tried anything. It seems as soon as that plan doesn't work, either they're comfortable against us and we can see it coming, they start to counter, they start to break, we start to huff and puff, we're getting scared, they shrink into their shell, eventually they unlock us, boom, game over, see you later, good night. These are not bad players. I would tell you myself, I would keep a lot of these players. But I just think if I think of it as a footballer myself, I've played for managers where I'm ready to run through a brick wall. I've played for managers that I like the person. I'll finish the game, we'll go and sit down, have a drink, wherever we're doing. Well, I won't have a drink, but I'll go. And it's nice. You socialize and you like the human being. So you just put up with it. Yeah, you're not cut out for this, I don't think, but we like you. We're going to play for you. Then you play for managers that are just hard-headed and dumb. Do you know what I mean? They want to prove they're the big boss by hook or by crook. Eventually, man, we just look at each other and say, forget this guy. Every week I'm running like a donkey. I'm knackered. I've got nothing to show for it. I'm not enjoying playing for you, getting beat every week, playing in a team that can't do 2-3 passes together. Why? Have Bournemouth got better players, player for player? Have Burnley? Yeah. How many of those players get into your team? None of them do. But they play you off the park. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you're asking me about City, fine. I accept that, Eric. No problem. I don't want you to beat City. I don't want a Premier League. I don't want a Champions League. No worries. I don't even want to get into the Champions League. But what are you actually giving me? There's only so much I can tell you, the Glazers, man. The Glazers are not taking training. They're not telling the players what to do. They're not turning the players against him. They're not saying to him, don't play for him. This is all manufactured over the course of 2 years of poor football. It started well. The only game you can cast your mind back to, really, where Eric Ten Hag made me sit up and think, oh my God, is Tottenham against Antonio Conte, ironically. That was a phenomenal performance. Do you know what I mean? What other games am I ingrained in my mind where I'm thinking, yeah, or it's coming? Even at this point, even for the last 3 months, Eric, just make a believer out of me. Show me that we're going somewhere, and you will have my. I want to give you my love, man. I want to give you my adoration, but you're making it impossible.
Yeah, but I think most of the fan base think the same. They want to give Ten Hag a chance in a way, but
Mm.
everything why when we get 2 3, at least myself, when I have 2 3 games to days to just like calm down, I start to think why, well, maybe Ten Hag is he's a good manager, I like his tactics, blah blah blah, but right after the game it all comes like straight in your face. You can't think anymore because everything you do feels so wrong. You
You
want
know
to do
me.
to
You,
succeed, and
I
this is
was.
one of the
I've
biggest
done.
problems.
I've done my bit where it's fresh. It was horrible to watch. It was a defeat that should never happen. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Then he plays the next week. I see a few things I like, a few good
Mm.
performances. You know what? They fought for him today. Then I'm kind of back on board. I've been flip flopping a lot with Eric. I've been very
Myself.
patient. I'm not, this isn't a Glazers like, hound him out. No, no. This is an objective assessment all considered, let's say, okay, Martinez is out, Luke Shaw is out, Mason Mount's been unavailable. When Shaw and Martinez play, I noticed there's an improvement. I won't
Mm.
say no.
Hmm.
But in the absence of two players, the capitulation is unacceptable because injuries are part of the game. You can't pin your hopes on two players. Why can we not continue to play in a consistent style, a consistent vision that he's instilled in us, irrespective of who plays, and just say, we recognize it's a lack of quality today. I can't tell you it's a lack of quality this day or that day. I can tell you, okay, maybe this player, but in the main, generally across the board, is very, very poor, very difficult to watch. And we're
Mm.
talking about inferior opposition. That's consistently here, inferior opposition, man. So for me, it's you know what? No, I'm not going with the players here. I think there's managers out there that will do a much better job with this group of players, and even if we had 4 or 5, and I think the dressing room is starting to fall apart for me. It's maybe it's a bit too big for him. Like I said, he's been going in the wrong direction, and now he's trying to turn it back. Sometimes once it's gone, it's like you're a manager in a dressing room. One player gets a victory over you in front of everybody else, your tenure is effectively finished.
Hmm.
Mm.
That's why I'm somebody, as you know, whether it was Moyes, Mourinho, Oli, I back managers because I know what it is to be a manager in a dressing room. Your power must be absolute, which isn't to say you have to be Sergeant Slaughter, but Alexander Arnold did an interview, if you watched it. He said, when Klopp shows you love, you feel it, but Klopp is a guy that you don't want to get on the wrong side of because he will give you a rollicking. And then you look at Ferguson, what people say. You can't treat Ronaldo and Cantona like Steve Bruce. You have to know what triggers players. This is the greatness of people like Jose. Listen to how his players speak about him.
Hmm.
Every player is different.
Mm.
Some players are the superstars. They know they're the stars. Some players are just as important, but in a different way. They take instruction very, very well.
Mm.
They're an important cog in this machine. He seems to, you know what? You have to know how to treat every individual. And I just feel that Eric as well, man. What's the experience that Eric has? It's not vast. And again, I move when I tell you Antonio Conte why. I explained to you yesterday. The
Hmm.
personality is key.
Yeah.
Is absolutely crucial. That fiery personality. And if it goes wrong, I want a manager that is going to say to Bruno, listen, I'm sorry, mate. Yeah, Bruno, whatever, 300,000 a week, Rashford, Casemiro. Who are you? Do you know who I've managed? Do you know what I've won as a player? You can't teach me nothing. Sit down. You're not playing today. See you later. Or the Glazers. If it's not going his way, he's not going to take the bullets when he should and when he shouldn't. He will
Hmm.
do what he will just say, listen, you saw what happened at Tottenham, and he's right. Let's see what Ange Postecoglou does in his second season. Every manager can have a first season free.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
Pep, that's fine. Now, can you develop this football? Because your football is leaking a lot of goals. You're becoming easy to play against, just like we have been. When you come new, and we came to take our team with Onana to play from the back, that was the next phase of Erik ten Hag. Okay, we started it, but people clock onto things. They're not stupid. You watch the team that you're going to face, and you see what are their strengths. Do they change anything? You can probably tell Manchester United starting lineup, 10 months in advance. So all these things are things that have filled me with not very much hope. There are managers that have been here that we should never have sacked. Never have sacked. They were on a good trajectory. That was my instincts told me. And I could see clearly what it needed and the type of things that they were trying to do. They were the right things in retrospect, in hindsight. And they were big mistakes on the part of the board. I look at this manager, I don't see that. So for me, it is what it is. It's been what it has been. But whatever good Eric has done, and there has certainly been some good, especially in the first season on and off the pitch, it is far, unfortunately, outweighed by the ineptitude of Erik ten Hag. I'm sorry to say, and it's there. You see it. We've conceded the most shots in the league. I think 60 more than the next, which is Luton, for God's sake. This is not right. This is not acceptable, especially when we can see that's the problem on a week-to-week basis over the course of an entirety of a season. And that's generally my take. So go and get Antonio Conte. Stop messing about.
Yeah.
Where's the comment?
Do you know what, lads? Tom and Bumby, eloquently spoken, really. It's such a difficult one, isn't it? It's such a fine line because we're all footballers on this channel. People in the chat, they're all footballers. And we all see the game differently, but we all come together as a collective on the same page. Me and Jarvis talk about this all the while. We see the game slightly differently, but we always get to the end goal. And I think you guys, again, have done that. My little caveat to it is, and it's just me being a footballer, and I can't. Jarvis will tell you, Bumby, my view is always from a pitch. Tom will tell you as well. It's always from on the pitch, because that's how I see the game and I view the game. And I'm with both of you. There are certain times where you need to go 70s, 60s, 50s, old school, and absolutely crumble somebody to change a game. And I look around, and my own experiences tell me that you can see what's happening sometimes in a game, and yet there's an inability to change that game. And you look around sometimes, you look at the players around you, and you think, well, why can't we get back into this game? Why can't we change the game ourselves? We know what we're doing. We've been playing football since we were 5 years old. We know how to win games of football, but we can't do it. And where you guys are on the same page, and I think where everybody's on the same page, is there's this lack of leadership. There's this lack of absolute balls in a player. And I always talk about a phrase I heard years and years ago, when the likes of Eric Cantona playing Ronaldo, and that their dick enters the room 20 seconds before the person. And that's how it should be. You need to look around the change room and think, yeah, I'm in good hands today. I'm with good players, good solid footballers, but real men at the same time. And it's really hard, isn't it, when you look at our current squad of players? You don't see real men sometimes, and it's difficult. The other thing about you guys is, and me and Jarvis, we've only just started talking about it, and somebody said to me the other day, who would you have in charge? And I couldn't really put a name down there. I could give you a buzz name, De Zerbi, whoever. I could do all that, but I couldn't actually give you a name because I couldn't really quantify a reason behind who could replace Erik ten Hag. And that's what I like about you guys. But yeah, I've heard you babbling on about Conte for the last, because I watch Real Therapy as well. I watch him and Jarvis on their U3, and Conte comes in. But at least you've got an idea as to why you see Conte fitting, and that's key. You're not just pulling a name out the hat and saying, "Oh, we'll have him." but you've got substance behind it. Same with you, Tom. You have substance, and that's key to anything that you do. And Ineos have got to work now on substance moving forward. Whatever they do for the club has to have substance. I was going to mention that, chaps. We've got 0 questions tonight, which is an absolute miracle. Normally it's question time, and we've got 0 questions. I can't quite believe it, but maybe everybody's still a bit raw, from last night. But I just want to touch on something else as well. Coaching, again, it's important, but again, from my perspective, we don't do a lot of coaching during the week. We look at the opposition as best we can, but we don't do specifics. We still practice and hone our 2-touch, 3-touch speed passing and our positional play and our positional sense. Use our brain rather than our feet. And we were actually, Tom, I think you must have been away, buddy, but we had Phil Marsh on a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him a coaching question, and he said, and he's talking about his days under Sir Alex. So, it's a different time period and a different era.
Yeah.
he said we used to sit in the dressing room, and Sir Alex would come in, and this is first team, by the way, and he'd be walking around, didn't he? And he said, we just go out there and play, but whatever you do, just win the game. And they very rarely passed on instructions because there was a trust. If you're in my dressing room, I think you touched on it, Tom, actually, to be fair, pal. If you're in my dressing room, then you're here for a reason. Get out there and show me that reason. And both Bombay and Tom had mentioned that maybe the players aren't doing that for Eric Ten Hag, and I get it. I can see it. Just for my own clarity to everybody here, I would stick with Eric Ten Hag because I can't finger point with any real conviction who I would want in his place. And that's the only reason, fellas. Yesterday, though, I was calling for his head because I was livid. But now, 24 hours on, I'm a little bit calmer. But I don't...
But if they did, I'll give you a question, Stu, anyway, while we're waiting for people to put questions in. If they did get rid of them, would you be any more doubtful of who they would bring in after? Or is it more a case of you'd just be open to it regardless? But based upon what you see out there right now in terms of the managers, you just want to stick by him because there's not any good option that you see fit that sticks.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what I love about football, because I don't see anyone. It doesn't mean that there isn't anyone out there. You guys have made your cases. But my biggest problem is that I think if you bring... just say you bring Conte in, I think Conte would get rid of half that squad. I don't think he would seriously recognise and consider them to be worthy of his coaching ability. And actually, the same with Mourinho. I think there are certain managers that have this kind of vision and this viewpoint. But Tom, I want to go back to something you actually mentioned weeks ago, and something that me and you are in total agreement on. It isn't the pound notes of a player anymore. It's the quality of the player, isn't it? You can get a quality player for 25 million quid as opposed to 60 million quid. That's where you should be looking, and that's where you should be shopping. And I think that whoever comes in, if they want to come to Manchester United, because I'm not really sure, although we're a big draw still, I'm not really sure with his current crop and of players who would really want to come and how they could really change the trajectory that we've been on since Sir Alex. So I don't see anybody out there right now, and not even the Nagelsmann, to be honest, Tom. I know people are raving about him, but I don't think a Nagelsmann. The only one I would consider, and forgive me, Jarvis, you'll have to bail me out with his name.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on the Girona manager.
Michel.
Yes.
Michel. Yeah,
yes.
Michel.
I like a lot about him, but is he any better than Ten Hag?
Yeah, but the thing is,
that's how I look at it.
Answer quick. When it comes to Michel, I like the Spanish, I would say, characteristics, how they act as managers, and I think how they communicate suits well with the British English league. And you see a lot of Spanish managers. We have Pep, we have Arteta, we have Iraola. Who else do we have? We have the Aston Villa. Good evening. Emery. So there's a lot of Spanish managers, and it seems to work well. And we have tried the Dutch thing, we have tried the British, we have tried Norwegian, we have tried German manager, but we have never tried the Spanish manager. And I think maybe that will suit also. And I like Michel, how he sets up this Girona team. It's very fluent. He has a very solid style, but it's not that different from Ten Hag. You know, he sets up, overloads, shift play to the other side, try to control games, inverted fullback. It's a lot of similarities. Not as aggressive in the press play as Ten Hag, but then again, I think maybe that's not a good thing in the Premier League at the current state with this group of players. So maybe he will come in and can turn things around at least in the short term. So Michel is a guy I would like to see in Man United. But I gotta say, you know, I flip-flop between Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out. I can't really land 100%. And when you talk, Stu, you talk about Ten Hag and how he sets up a team. And I think if he gets the right players signed in and the right players back from injury, he can get this team firing again. As I mentioned, we don't have a left-footed defender. We lack a regista playmaker to set the rhythm of the game, the tempo. We have a lot of specialist players, but we don't have a all-round ballers in a way, because we need players who have the ability to interchange positions in this team, and how Ten Hag want to set up. And the counter press and our press play is actually not good at all. And it goes to the abilities of the players. We have a couple of characters in this team who doesn't know how to press. And you know, when you press half-ass, everything just falls through, and they cut through us like a knife through butter, you know, and it's not good. So and there's a lot of things with the mentality of the game, you know, how to track back without losing the overview of the situation. You know, you track back like madman, just running, but you don't look around and notice where the opposition player is, which area, where to stop, how to handle the situation. We have a lot of people who just think, okay, now we need to defend, run back into our own 18-yard box. That's why we have all these cutbacks, for example. So there's a lot of things that we can change, and I don't think it's too difficult to change it, but we need some new personnel, we need some players back, and suddenly we can be firing on all cylinders again. We saw it against Wolves 1st of February, I think. We played that first half, we were up 3-0 after 30 minutes. Højlund was firing, Rashford was actually working. We had players because we had Licha and Shaw back in that game, and everything, all the pieces fell into place in a way. So it's a difficult one at the moment. So I can't even say Ten Hag in or out. For me, I'm more 50-50. But if he stays, I won't be sad. And if he leaves, I won't be sad. It's just the way it is.
Well, guys, where are we? We are 1 hour 40 in, and we do have a couple of questions. And when you've got the guests of the caliber that we have tonight, such as Tom and Bumbier, we need questions because you have a fountain of knowledge. I'm going to get Jarvis for next week to give us a little 10-minute video segment here with Q&A on it. You have to make something up, design something up. Big Q&A, something. So let's jump into questions, and then we'll wrap the show up, because as I say, there's not too many questions, but let's go with it. A lot of the questions we've kind of already answered, really. So Bumbier, I'm going to give you this one, buddy, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
And he's put Conte in for some reason, God knows why. Question: Conte, does it be Potter, Tuchel, or Tuchel? Which coach do you guys think would be the best fit for us going forward? So Bumby, and why? So this has asked you to quantify that.
Conte is purely based on where Manchester United find themselves in this very moment. If I was a Liverpool fan, I would be looking at maybe Amorim. I like him. I would be looking at Alonso. My fear for the managers that people like the way that they play. That's why they want them. That's fine. These managers have never walked into a mess. This is a mess. Far better managers with high quality CVs are failing here. Sometimes out of their own fault, sometimes not. This is a behemoth. So yeah, well done at Brighton. You know, De Zerbi, brilliant. De Zerbi, many a times, and I'll take my hat off to him, speaks highly of what he found. That's the work of Graham Potter. We didn't sit up and notice Brighton with De Zerbi. Not me anyway. I was loving him under Potter. And De Zerbi found something perfect that he could just continue to build. This isn't what you're going to find here. So yes, you can go on the basis of I like the philosophy, I like the football, I like blah, blah, blah. This is a huge job. Manchester United at this moment in time need Antonio Conte. If this Manchester United was Ferguson, yeah, we have a different conversation. I think the door is open much wider to say, let's bring somebody on the basis of the lovely football that, you know, he can take these players, he can do with. This is more than that. This is why Antonio Conte fits the profile perfectly. People, I don't think, know Conte very well. They just see a guy that got fired at Tottenham and is defensive. He's not. Go and look what happened at Juventus. Again, he was not a popular choice. They were 7th in absolute mess. He went the season unbeaten. Look at what was happening in the Italy national team when Cesare Prandelli resigned. It was that bad. Their best spell, he brought them back from obscurity. They only went out, I think, in the quarters to Germany on penalties, who were the holders. Antonio Conte knows how to deal, put fires out, and you need a guy like that. I'm not saying for 10 years, but right now, this Man United team, that's what you need. That's what I see. I don't see somebody coming in and, well, I'm just going to play my football. Everything's going to be fine. Maybe, but there's a lot of risks associated with inexperience. There's a lot of risks associated with such a massive step up. And that's what's happened here. Whether you are in or out, this is a manager who hasn't managed a lot, not really done high profile. Ajax, it's all youth. And Ajax, let's be honest, Ajax is, you know what, they are founded on youth. They have an amazing academy. Whether it's Van Gaal, whether it's Erik ten Hag, their youth is unbelievable. That academy produces. And he had a crop. He bought a few. He made a good team. And they had a good season in Europe. That's when we set up, the Madrid game. Let's get him in. We like youth. He plays good. He came. I think every manager's good until he's tested. Okay, now I'm in a hole. Can you get out? He's not gotten out. This hole has gotten bigger and deeper, and it's still getting bigger and deeper. Who knows where? Okay, Sheffield United next. Let's see where you are there. Let's see what the final looks like. If we lose the final 4-5-0, we'll have this conversation again. And you'll get your feelings closer to the end of the season. It has to be, do I feel I'm going somewhere with you? I don't. Some people might think, new structure, maybe. If he's here, like I said, this isn't a hound out job. If he's here at the start of the season, he will have my full support. We will reset. He will have my full, unequivocal support until it's his to lose. So that's where we are with Conte and why. That's the reason why, because of what we are right now and what we need.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Red Devil TV, I hope that's answered your question. Just a couple of bits and pieces. Danny B, it's more of a statement here. If Erik ten Hag goes, it's going to be Potter or Southgate. And Lillis has given us all jobs. Coach, assistant coach, fitness coach, etc. So thank you for that, Lillis. Brilliant. Tom, you're at the game yesterday. Here's a good question for you. Do you think Ten Hag made the right substitutions?
Right, so from what I recall, he brought on Ahmad. Who else did he bring on? He brought off
Ericsson.
Mino for Ericsson, I think it was.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, in large portions of the game, I think the players that he brought on were the right players to bring on. I just think he probably brought them on at the wrong time. I think when we was at 70 minutes when they scored, before they even scored, Ericsson was a player who you could have probably done with on the field. He's a nippy little player with the ball at his feet. He's brilliant. When he's not got the ball, fair enough, he's terrible. But in terms of if you wanted to keep a little bit of element of the control in the game, a player to maybe drop deep and collect the ball, turn with it and maybe fire you forward, I don't think Ericsson would have been bad in the game. Coventry, as much as I put a lot of praise on them for the way that they handled that 20-minute period and the adrenaline rush that they had, I didn't think they were the most quickest team in the world. I've got to be very honest. There weren't a player that I thought when I was in the stadium that I was sat there panicking about if Casemiro or Maguire was left isolated. I thought if they scan the area quite well, they'll probably deal with it decently enough. And I think they did for large parts of the game up until that 70 minutes when they started losing the runners and the tracking of players. But Ericsson probably could have done with coming on maybe a bit sooner. Ahmad, I can see why you brought him on, but to be honest with you, you've boiled the kid down to absolute minerals, if you're being honest with you, because you brought him on out of desperation because he bailed you out against Liverpool and he got you the win there, so you didn't have to go to penalties. But ever since then, guys, the guy didn't really get rewarded for what he gave you. So, but as soon as you need somebody to come up with something for you, you brought him on. I don't necessarily think it was a good look for either Ten Hag or Ahmad. But I think the impact that Ahmad gave us in the game, especially in the final third, was the thing that I've seen with Ahmad, especially when he's had these little cameos and minutes here and there, is when he has the ball at his feet, I think he's one of our better players with low sense of gravity. I think he can drive with the ball. He's very direct with the angles that he tries to get into. But even when we brought on Forson, for example, him and Forson, they had these little interchanges with one another, and they were pinging it. Fair enough, they had shots, but they were from outside the box. They had some little bit of intricate ways of play. We don't have that sort of connection with any of our front line. Garnacho, I don't really think's got that chemistry with Højlund. Neither do I think Rashford has.
Yeah.
I struggle to see it with Anthony, with any of our forwards as well, where he has that little bit of a connection with them. I don't see the spark that's with any of the players. Before, when we had Martial up front, Martial and Fernandes had a little bit of a clicking moment. They could bounce off of each other almost, because I thought they was quite on the same wavelength. And Martial and Rashford, to be fair to them for a couple of years, had that bit of an intertwine with one another. But I do just think, based upon the time frame of the game, when you're 3-0 up at Wembley, people will look at it and think, oh, you can just sit the game out. With the way we've played this season, the manager probably should have and could have identified that if I put a bit of experience on the field, Ericsson's a big game player. He's been in Champions League finals. He's been, playing for country at Euro semi-finals and stuff. He's been in big game moments for club and countries, and he knows what the pressure situations is in club football. So if you'd have brought him on in that situation to control the game and settle it down, even when they scored the first goal, bring him on to control the game and settle it down, it might have gone a little bit better for us. But I think in the time scale of the game, as much as we say that the injuries that we have on the bed and everything fails towards the players that we can have actually available, I'm looking at really impacts. Even if you had players like Mason Mount and Amrabat available, I don't honestly think they would have made that much difference to the scoreline or what actually happened yesterday. Because I've seen those players come on in games in Copenhagen, in Galatasaray, in Chelsea, and the same things happened. Brentford a couple of weeks ago when we were 1-0 up and we bottled it in the last minute because of a cutback. I've seen these same scenarios happen before. But no, I think in terms of the substitutes, I think the personnel was probably right based upon what he had. I will give him a bit of leeway in terms of that. But maybe the timing and the thought process behind it could have been a little bit better. But again, like me and Jarvis have always agreed anyway, I think his in-game management's not the best. And I don't necessarily think when he identifies a problem, his solution is very quick from the back of his assessment of what's going wrong. I don't think he acts quick enough in games. If he'd have acted maybe a little bit indecisively and thought, all right, they've got to go back. Well, let me bring on Anthony, Forson. Let me bring on Ahmad, Forson. And yeah, I'll bring on Ericsson anyway. That's been a little bit more contained because at least if they go for you in the game, there's going to be an opening to get onto them anyway. So then you might get another goal in the game anyway. But it's it were a lot of chests and everything, guys, yesterday. But yeah, from what I saw in terms of when I was there and everything, I thought it was probably the right players to bring on at the time. Maybe just not in the right time frames at that particular point. But based upon what he actually had at his disposal, I can't really lambast the guy that much, to be honest.
Excellent. Joe, I hope that answers your question. I do know you've got a second question. We will get round to that if we have a chance and want to get through the other questions. Just a quick one, guys. 74 likes at the moment. If any of you could...
let's try to get to 100. Come on, people, hit that like if you haven't.
That would be absolutely brilliant. Quick question from Mark, and then I've got another question for you, Jarvis, from Mark. So I'll take this one. Zidane doesn't speak English. Absolutely correct. Would the fans understand him? No. Would he have character? My understanding, any interview I've ever heard with Zidane is he doesn't want to and has absolutely no inclination to want to speak English. That's why he's never really been approached for the Premier League and things of that nature. Would he be good for the Premier League? Would he have character? Absolutely. You could only look in awe as a player when Zidane walked through the door for what he's achieved, for the amount of quality that he had. I mean, he never looked like a footballer, did he, when he got that kind of Friar Tuck kind of hairstyle going on when he was growing up? But what a talented player. So there are certain players that would love to work with Zidane, but would find it very, very difficult from a communication point of view. One of the worst things for Manchester United right now would be having to have the need of an interpreter to get information instructions across. So great question, Mark. And I think, look, loads of people would. He is taking English lessons, says he? Yeah. He should have done that years ago. I think it's one of the reasons why he never actually came to play for England because, but there you go. So hope that answers your question, Mark. But we do have another question from Mark. Mark's our producer, as you all know. Jarvis, please enlighten me. Why should we buy more players for another manager but not Ten Hag?
Yeah, that's $1 million question in a way, because we have struggled now with a dross of players from different managers, and we look like Frankenstein's monster in a way because we are put together with all those different pieces, and this is what I've been talking about, the ability to interchange, for example, because we have too many specialist players, like for example Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's a specialist defender 1-against-1. But it doesn't suit Ten Hag's style of play, to how to interchange, how to invert as a fullback, bombing forward. And there's different players like Rashford, for example. He's a pace merchant. He's fantastic on the counter, on transitions, but it's not about dominating the opposition, keeping possession. Then he falls through. He lacks in so many ways. So this is the problem. And to answer Mark's question, should we buy players for another manager? I would say, as I mentioned, I would like Michel because he's not too way off from Ten Hag. So maybe we could get a lot out of the players Ten Hag bought. So the rebuild wouldn't be like going back to scratch and start again. I like us to start on the 5th, 7th, 10th square maybe. On the Monopoly game before we go back to start again. Sure. So yeah, that's my question. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, Omar Barada would know Michel quite well. Because he was part of the City group, isn't it, Girona? Just before we go on, guys.
Only 49%.
Yes.
Girona. That's why they can play in the Champions League next season and compete against Manchester City. They know the rules and they know how to bend them.
It's got Guardiola's brother's prints all over it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Just a couple of quickies. Congratulations, Jamie Wayne. He's been a member for a month.
Big up, Jamie.
Superb. Big up, Jamie. And good old Dixie. 5 months.
Big up.
Wow. Big up, Dixie. Excellent. Bombay, I got a great question for you here, pal. Will you do a dance or publicly stand outside Old Trafford and admit you were wrong when Eric Ten Hag wins us some more silverware? Big up, big up, big up. Great question. Tongue-in-cheek question, obviously, but a great question.
With pleasure. You can film it, you can social media. I'm not a social media guy, but if we win the league with Eric Ten Hag, I will go hop on that Trinity statue and give you a dance, man. Don't worry.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And Jarvis will clip that tomorrow.
Yep.
I'm only joking. Tom, got a question off the gaffer. Here's my question. What if Eric Ten Hag gets backed in the summer and gets rid of the Deadwood? If he cooks next season, would you change your mind, or is it still flip-flop? A good question, actually. I mean, I know it's very similar to what Bombay was just asked. So I think, Tom, you're going to have to join Bombay outside dancing if Ten Hag wins this bit. I think mixed questions. How everybody's feeling. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it probably depends upon what we mean by backed in the summer, because he was supposed to be backed the first summer that he actually even come here. He didn't get the player that he wanted, which was Frankie de Jong. So he probably had to rethink the midfield. You can probably make an argument for that he didn't get the player that he wanted the previous summer, which was he wanted Harry Kane. He didn't. I don't buy this that he wanted Højlund, because everything that was circling around was he wanted an experienced, proven number 9. Harry Kane was available. He fit the bill. He had 1 year left in his deal. There was a deal there to be done for Manchester United. They tried it. You know, the protagonist that Man United signed, the best English forward that's in the league, or they have the best English forward in the league. It's always been a cultural thing at United. You've had it with Wayne Rooney. They tried to get Shearer, Cole, York. Like, we've had it with that stigma with that player. So in terms of if he gets backed in the summer, it'd have to be prioritising positions that he sees fit that he wants. But I don't want him having any influence on who they scout, who they look at, or anything. It has to be that he says, I need a right back. The recruitment team goes and finds him a right back. I don't want him to have any sort of influence, because he's had his hands on the purse strings at United before. We spent a 10 million loan on Amrabat, which, let's face facts, guys, we've had his pants pulled down. There's 10 million you're never going to see back. Anthony, I don't know if we do receipts at Ajax, or if they do fax machines, whatever they do. Like, you're not going to get any penny of that back for any football club. I mean, I think the only decent thing that he's really done at Man United, if I'm being completely honest with you, is he's recruited a couple of young players in the first team and they've been a success. I think that's been his main element of success, because you can question about Onana. I mean, there's not really one of his signings that, apart from maybe Martinez when he's been fit anyway, that I could argue has been brilliant and perfect. I can't really see much else from that. But even if he gets the backing, and then, like I say with mixed question, it depends what you define by in terms of cooking. Cooking for me would be a complete turnaround from what we've seen this season, where the performances are up and the results are up. That's what I would argue in terms of that. But we have to be competing up in the echelons with City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Not necessarily winning the title. I'm not here for that. I don't expect him to win the title based upon how poor we've been this season. But I expect us to be. How can I say? I expect us to have the season that Aston Villa's had, for example, where you're being successful in maybe a competition like they are being in the Conference League, but they're securing top 4. Because I think Villa, for my argument anyway, I think Villa are there or thereabouts in terms of maybe getting over the line. It's heads and toss up between them and Spurs, but both of them might end up getting it anyway, depending on what Villa do in the Conference League. But I think if you get that sort of season where it's more about progression, you can see a style of play and everything. Yeah, of course, my opinion can change it. When you lose a manager, when you lose faith in a manager, that's fine. A manager can always win faith back in you. Listen, if you change the formation or you change the personnel, or he just tried something different that I've not ever seen before, it'd buy me back. It'd, raise my eyebrows to think, oh, I might give him this game and let's see how it goes. And if it goes well, okay, you've bought me back slightly. Then I need to see some more consistency in terms of making changes or adapting. But he doesn't do that, and he's never done that. So the problem with me with Ten Hag is, when you've lost or you're off of the bandwagon of Ten Hag, it's really hard for you to get back on it. Mm-hmm. Unless, like Mick's saying here, he does a complete U-turn. But I don't know. It depends on a couple of things. Depends what you mean by backing. If he gets everything that he wants in terms of positions. Again, it depends on recruitment, and then it also depends on what you mean by cooking. By cooking, I want performances, results, upturning, and I want to be comfortably in top 4. That's what I would say anyway. I don't think this Man United team's built to win anyway. I was shocked that we won the Carabao Cup last season, to be quite frank with you. I don't think it's built for winning. I think it's built primarily, probably, to secure top 4. That's what I think this team is, but it's fallen way, way short of that this season anyway.
Okay, cool. Mick, I hope that answers your question. We've got a couple more questions to go. My favourite handle, this one for Jarvis. Number 1 Milf Hunter. He's a big fan of yours, Jarvis. I've reached endgame. Jarvis wrote Midfield. He loves it. What a legend. His question is, what would you do with the Rashford-Bruno situation if you could choose their future? Thank you, Jarvis.
Yeah.
So Jarvis is basically their agent. You could argue then. Okay, go ahead.
If I was their agent, I would try to sell them on, because they're not going nowhere in this Man United team. They don't suit the manager's style. Well, they earn good money, but money isn't everything. When you're a footballer, you need to build a decent footballing career, and you have your legacy to take care of. And Rashford will waste his best footballing years playing for Man United because he's not bothered at the moment. He's not motivated. He needs to change it up. So I would try to sell him to PSG for a decent amount of money. I would say between 60 to 75 million would be a reasonable amount for a player like Rashford. And I'm not talking about just this season, but he scored 30 goals last season, and he has a big reputation when it comes to football and within sponsors and everything. So he's a guy who could bring other clubs money also in selling shirts and stuff. Bruno, I don't know when it comes to Bruno. He's a difficult one. I like Bruno. He works hard. He runs a lot. He's undisciplined. I don't like when he's petulant. He has some negatives, but some positives. And I've seen a lot of positives lately coming from Bruno in the last 3 to 4 games. I think he's more disciplined. I spoken about this before when we attack in the 3-1-6 formation. We have 5 lanes, the outer channels, inner channels, and the central. And Bruno is the extra man trying to fill up to be the guy who creates the overload, and he runs a lot and he tries to cover all the width of the pitch. So that's why he looks very, very undisciplined. But in a way, I think he's starting to understand more that he needs to let go and give responsibility to the other players too. And I think he's maturing in a way. And I haven't seen his petulance as much. But is it enough to give this Ten Hag team a winning chance? I'm not sure. Maybe I will keep him on for one more season. Yeah.
I think you're right about Rashford. I think Rashford is going to look at his empty trophy cabinet at the end of the year or at the end of his career and think, wow, I've got all this money in the bank and I've got nothing to show for it. Really, really, really sad. Really sad. Jarvis has asked me a question, which I will answer for you now, pal. What are my expectations for the end of the season? And do I think we can finish on a high note with the FA Cup? Unfortunately, my expectations are quite low between now and the end of the season. I would love to sit here and say I'd like to see us finish 5th or 4th, but I've got to the stage. I just want us to get over the line somehow. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Europa League. I'm not a fan of clearly a fan of the Conference League. I actually can't work out whether we're better off out of Europe totally and finishing 8th or something along those lines, which some people will say defeatist. But actually, football isn't always about winning or losing. Sometimes it's about using your brain and being able to work for the future. And I'm wondering whether a season out of Europe might help Ten Hag. I don't know. I could be wrong. My expectations for the FA Cup final are we beat City 2-1. That's my expectations. And I think, Tom made a point about will he do something? Will he change it? I think he might re-employ the first half tactics at the Etihad. Yes, we lost the game 3-1, but we changed our system again in the second half, if you remember. He went a little bit route one and it confused the hell out of Guardiola. I think he might try something innovative, get my words out, like that. Guys, we've got a couple of questions. Jarvis, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, brilliant question, brilliant answer.
So we've got 2 questions left. So our esteemed guests will have that, and I'll toss my coin quickly. Bombay, you get this one from the legend is Ivo Bosic, and he says WTAF is okay. I think I've got the acronym on that one. Is Amma not starting over the crap we start every game? His link at hold up are light years ahead of the. Is that Scrubs badly starts, or is that Scumbag?
Starts. Baldy.
Oh, okay. The Scrubs are Baldy starts. yes. Bombay, what do you say to that?
So the question is, why is he not starting?
Yeah. I think that's the question. Yeah.
I mean, Erik ten Hag answered his own question when he said that he doesn't get the minutes that he deserves. He said that himself a few weeks ago. Yeah. I feel that Amad Diallo did his job on loan at Sunderland. He was a massive part of why they had the season they had. And I really like him. I think there's something there that I'm frustrated I don't get to see. And there's no real excuse for it other than maybe he needs his man Anthony to get the confidence, gives him some minutes, I think Anthony's a big burden because of how poor this one has worked out and the price and the investment that he said, yes, I still want him. Even though you ballsed it up completely, he still said, yeah, we still go with him, even though that transfer will have a knock-on effect. It's a lot of money. So that will be, unfortunately, something that will work against Eric. But he should play Amad Diallo. He deserves to play because the players that are playing haven't exactly been performing. He did his job on loan. And for me, he has, a sweet left foot. He's courageous. When he sees space in front of him, he's not afraid to take it. He takes care of the ball. And I like him. I really like this player. I feel there's something there. So he should play. He definitely should.
Yeah. No, totally agree. Thanks for that, Bombier. And Evo, I hope that answers your question. Tom, you get the gaffer's final question. The final question of the night, and then Jarvis will wrap everything up. And the final question is, John Murto pissed off Veronique Rabiot. I think the whole world pisses Veronique Rabiot off by the sounds of it. She sounds a formidable woman. But would you take Rabiot in a free this summer? It's a very easy answer for me, that. But over to you, Tom.
Not in a million years, personally. His son's motivated for one thing and one thing only, and that's cash. He left PSG because Juventus offered him more money. That's the only. Why would you leave your homeland and a football club which you play every week? You play with big superstars, Messi, Neymar, Kylian Mbappe. You don't leave that sort of situation. You're always going to win the French league every single year. You're guaranteed trophies. You're getting a decent enough wage there. It's fueled by money. John Murto, listen, he went over to Italy. Well, first of all, he went over to Spain to try and get De Jong 3 or 4 times. We saw him in bars and cafes. I don't know if he was having a couple of sherries or whatever he was doing there. He was sweating like a pig in the wind in his black tie-out suit. I don't know why you go in a suit to Spain. He went to Italy and wined and dined with Veronica Rabiot. I don't know what he's done, but he was there for an hour. He was on a plane back to the UK before you could know it. I mean, maybe he's out of work now. Little vacation over to Italy. Might be able to wine and dine for a different reason, John Murto. I don't know. But John Murto was a negotiator. The guy, I'm sorry, he couldn't negotiate his way out of anything. He couldn't negotiate his way out of a phone box. Never mind trying to negotiate a football player. The guy, he didn't have I always say this with directors of football. He didn't have what I call as the black book in football. He didn't have all the top football agents in the world. He didn't have all the credentials via the FA or FIFA. He didn't have any sort of links to those big organisations. The thing that I can get along with Dan Ashworth is the one thing that I always look for a sporting director with is they either have to have some sort of a bigger affiliation or affection with FIFA, UEFA, or the FA. And if they don't have an affiliation, one of those three, I have an issue with it because I don't rate their credentials because they've not either been gone through the appropriate channels of qualification or they don't have the connections then to work in a big network football club. Manchester United, it's all about networking. If you don't know the right people in the right places, you're going to get nowhere. And that's exactly why probably Manchester United focus solely on their recruitment on either at home, which was in the UK, or they focused it in the Netherlands because the connection link was coming from the manager, not from the director of football, because he didn't have any connections. That's the problem. But in terms of Rabiot as a player, listen, he's a decent enough player in his day. He's played for France for, you don't have that many caps in that generational French team for no reason. So you must be a decent enough player to fit into that mould and set up. But it's not my cup of tea. I don't know about his mother, how she'd deal with the rain in Manchester or whatever.
Oh God!
I don't know. There'd be health complaints and concerns. Forget about heat stroke or anything in Manchester. You might get a cold.
It's a no. It's a no, man. Just tell them
no.
straight. It's a no.
It's a straight no, and that's coming from Bumbaye.
We're
not Simon Cowell here.
No,
it's a no.
It's well, that wraps up the questions. By the way, your black book, Tom, me and Neil Driscoll would know as a Rolodex back in the 70s. That's what we would carry around with us. Neil's a little bit older than me, so I can get away with that with Neil. Bless him. Love you a bit, Neil. You know that. Guys, brilliant questions as always. Bombay been absolutely top drawer. Tom, top drawer as always. Jarvis,
guys.
Thanks for coming on. It's been a really good dynamic tonight. Sorry, Jarvis, I'll let you close.
No, you are right. It's 2 hours, 12 minutes, 43 seconds as we speak, and time flies when we talk football. And I love talking football with you guys. Fantastic panel today. I'm so grateful that you had the time to come on and join me for these 2 hours and 12 minutes. And the VAR room, the football knowledge in this VAR room, it's beyond everything. You have lucky seeing John Johnson, DJ Superfly, Neil Driscoll, Yale Malmin, Craig Warby. You have DJ Superfly, Nick Nash, Mark N coming in with all his good comments, Ivo Bosic. So many good people here, and I would love you guys to come on the next Jarvis's Corner. You're all invited, and it will be a blast. So
definitely. And just a quick as well, Jarvis, guys, during the week, if you can think of any questions, if you can think of anything you've seen that's happened, you want myself and Jarvis and the guests, to answer, then get them in during the week. Jarvis can collate them, or Mick can collate them. Yep. Just keep asking questions. If there's anything you want to know, I have read tonight. I don't know how true it is, and Tom, you might be able to just before we do close. It looks like Dan Ashworth is confirmed for about 8 million plus 6. That's what I've read and heard. I don't know if that's true. There's a lot of hearsay going on, but that's something we do need. But once again, VAR room. We try and get through your comments. There's just hundreds keep coming through. The football knowledge is absolutely incredible in the VAR room, and but yeah, your knowledge and Tom equally incredible. So thanks again, guys, for joining us.
Yeah, fantastic. And Lilis, I forgot to mention Lilis, great stream, Bumbaye, Tom, peace, and of course the legend himself, Rush Mano. Always, thank you for contributing in the chat and to the show, and all the things you do for us and the channels and the memberships and all of that. So, again, thank you, everybody. See you on the next one next Monday, 9 p.m. And don't forget to tune in on MUFC Realist TV. Mick will be here tomorrow. I believe we will do a preview for the Sheffield United game. So stay tuned. See you on the next. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching MUFC Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.